Now, children, after finishing the story, we will analyze certain angles of the story and also comment on the ending of it. Now, the story unravels in the first person and it is narrated from the point of view of Shankar, who is the protagonist, Jayanto's childhood friend, and a bystander to the events that take place in the story. The fact that story is narrated from Shankar's point of view helped the readers get a realistic idea of the events in the story, absolutely untarnished by the suppressions and the anxious fears of the protagonist himself. There are four main events that are happening in the story. The first one is Jayanto finding the Deodar tree that triggered his memory of his childhood doll Fritz. Second is Jayanto being paid a visit at night by the mysterious creature who leaves behind prints on the quilt. Third is Jayanto confessing to Shankar that he thought Fritz had visited him. And the fourth one being that the two friends dig up Fritz's grave to find human skeleton instead of the doll's remnants. Now there are a lot of flashbacks in the story when Jayanto is narrating his childhood memories, and they are in a way very seamlessly and with such perfect timing tied into the present that the transition from past to present is not only smooth but also very effective in crafting an engaging kind of a narrative. Apart from these flashbacks, the story has descriptive passages. It has sketching pen pictures of Bundi and the circuit house, in addition to the dialogues that are there, which are exchanged between friends as the plot of the story progresses. Now, detective fiction was Satyajit Ray's forte, and his skill in handling and sustaining suspense is absolutely evident in this story, Fritz. From the beginning of the story, Ray shrouds the protagonist's past in Bundi with suspense. We have before us sometimes pensive and sometimes disturbed Jayanto, stitching together his memories to recall exactly what happened at Bundi that had left such a strong impression on him. A sense of foreboding that looms heavily over the story is further accentuated by the setting of the story, that is the historical town of Bundi with its fort, antiquated streets, houses. The foreboding and suspense are taken to a climatic point at the end of the story, where they are replaced by horror once the human skeleton is unearthed from the ground. Ending the story with a cliffhanger is a masterly stroke of Ray, as it keeps the readers hooked to the plot even after they have set the story down. Now, Satyajit Ray has also handled the characterization of the story very aptly. Now, on one side, Jayanto has been sketched as an emotional and sensitive man who is troubled by paranoia and memories of the past, whereas Shankar is very opposite with his practical approach to everything. This contrast between the character defining traits add that balance to the story, such that the supernatural and the real coexist together in the story. In fact, both characters present to us a beautiful bond of friendship that exists between two childhood friends, despite the fact that they have matured in age and they're very different people. The patient and the steady care with which Shankar handles Jayanto when he is acting in this in a paranoid manner, it shows a very beautiful equation that the two men share with each other. Now, the overarching theme of the story, Fritz, comprises memory and the paranormal. showing how suppressed memories from the past can continue to seep into the present if the past has not been processed healthily. The other theme also explored in the story are nostalgia, childhood, the strong ties of friendship. The central theme of the story, Fritz, seems to revolve around the existence of paranormal, with Jayanto getting a mysterious visitor with small footsteps at night and a skeleton that was found in place where Fritz had been buried. However, if we delve deeper, we realize that the actual theme of the story is memory and how it can play tricks with our head if the past event it ensues from has not been processed healthily by the mind. From the beginning of the story, we can understand that something is weighing heavy on Jayanto's mind. He was excited about coming to Bundi, but once he came to Bundi, he seemed distracted, he seemed pensive and troubled by the burst of memories caused upon visiting the place where he had experienced something tragic. Jayanto seems troubled visiting a place where something tragic had happened. That was the loss of his favorite toy and his childhood companion Fritz. Memories of the toy began to haunt him. This preoccupation with his childhood toy and its freshly unearthed memories even spiral him into this paranoid episode where he thinks the doll actually visited him at night. One has no way of knowing about what or who the doll actually was and what was buried under the Devda tree, because these memories of the protagonist are heavily suppressed and distorted. And it is this dual suppression and distortion of memory that plays a very central role in this short story. The other theme found in Fritz is that of childhood. Childhood plays a very big role in shaping the adult one becomes as the foundation neurons of one's brains are formed during the childhood times. Perhaps the protagonist faced some trauma in Bundi when he was young, which led to this foreboding and this and fear that he felt upon returning to the same place as an adult. In fact, the reason why Jayanto wished to come back here was to compare Bundi of the modern time to his childhood image of this place. The theme of childhood runs into the other part of the story too, where Jayanto says that chairs felt so small as an adult, whereas as a king he could sit cross-legged on them, they appeared like throne. The plot of the story, Fritz, has been handled by Satyajit Ray with tremendous economy, suspense, making for an excellent reading. However, the reason why a story leaves a lasting impression on the readers is because of its ending. All through the story, there is a sense of foreboding, and one suspects a paranormal presence. This foreboding and supernatural ambience reaches its climax point at the end of the story, where a human skeleton is found in the grave instead of the doll's remnants. This ending, instead of giving closure to the readers, fills their mind with more questions and interpretations. One begins to wonder if Fritz was actually a person that had died during the time of Jayanto when he was in Bundi as a child. And his mind has distorted the memory of that tragedy by turning the person into a doll inside Jayanto's mind. A more practical explanation is that perhaps that sinister doll had been made out of a human skeleton. It is this ambiguous ending which makes the reader engage with the story more. Now, this ending is very open-ended. There could be other interpretations to the story. And this is how the story ends, on a note of suspense, mystery, magic, paranormal. Hope you enjoyed reading this story, children. Thank you.